Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, council. Good evening, staff. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening amongst the council members? I see none. Moving on to the approval of the council minutes held the meeting of October 10th. Moved by Councillor Verbicki, seconded by Councillor Hammond. Are there comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Is there any business arising out of the minutes? Nothing, thank you. Councillor Jacobs, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I'm asking for, under reports of staff at delegation 7.2 regarding the comprehensive business licensing zoning bylaw. And I'm requesting that we defer that at least until the next council meeting due to the fact that such a large document and was late getting into the councillors and in discussions with my fellow councillors, they felt that they would like more time to review this. So if it's possible, we would like to defer that. And
to the next meeting?
Yes, please. I'll make the motion.
You're moving that? Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Verbicki. Did anyone want to speak to that at all?
You can only defer to discussion to time.
Okay. So you can only speak to time.
That was my point. I understand Ms. Percy can't be here for the next meeting, so either the next meeting or her, it's okay, or her earliest convenience. Yeah.
Which will be?
The next meeting is fine. If I can't speak to her, Ruth will be present.
Okay.
Okay. That was my point.
Okay, so all in favor of the deferral of the meeting regarding the business licensing? All in favor? And that's carried. So if anyone's here in regards to the business license, we feel it needs to have a little more discussion and some thought. So if you wanted to leave, that's fine. If you want to stay, please do. So we're moving on to public meetings, and I believe that's you, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an application for combined rezoning and consent for the property at 504 Talbot Road East. The applicants are proposing to sever a surplus dwelling lot on which the house at 504 Talbot East is located from the existing farm. As of note, the farm immediately to the west is also owned by the applicant. The property at present has an area of approximately 16.3 hectares, which is about 40 acres, and it's on the south side of Talbot Road East, just east of Mercy Road 15. The property is designated agricultural under the official plan, and it's zoned agricultural general, which is A1 under our zoning bylaw. The surplus dwelling lot that is proposed to be created fronts onto Talbot and would have a lot area of approximately 0.381 hectares or 0.94 acres with about 42 meters or 138 feet of frontage on Talbot. It's an existing single detached dwelling that is located on this proposed lot. The provincial policy statement has a number of policies that we have to take into consideration for any lots that are proposed to be created, especially for surplus dwelling lots. I'm of the opinion that what is being proposed by the applicant conforms and is consistent with those policies. The County of Essex official plan as well as the Leamington official plan, both documents have a number of policies and criteria that also have to be satisfied for surplus dwelling lot severances. And again, this application conforms to all of those policies. Just of note, at the last council meeting, I was in attendance. There was an application for a surplus dwelling lot. The time that they'd owned the property was of concern. We have a similar situation in that the owners will not have owned, they do not have the property in ownership for a year as of right now. However, they have no plans to convey the lot until the 1-year period is up. So we are proposing the 1-year requirement be satisfied. Under the zoning bylaw, the property is, as I said earlier, zoned A1, and we have to ensure that both parcels, the severed lot and the retained lot, would comply with the zoning bylaw as a result of the severance. The narrow piece of the farm that's being severed, which is located between the two houses, if it was to be retained on its own as a single lot, it would not comply with the zoning bylaw. The applicant is in favor of joining that piece of property with the farm that he owns to the immediate south, which abuts the subject lands. If you look at the aerial photo that's in the report and up on the screen, there are two arrows that are showing where that retained parcel will be joined. As a result of that, I'm of the opinion that what they're proposing satisfies all of the requirements, and planning is in support.
Thank you, Heather. Before I take this to the public, is there anyone with a question or a comment? Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Madam Chair. Heather, my question is regarding the severed portion that's going to be moved to the transferred to the second portion, the second farmland. Could that possibly be used as a lot, seeing there's no restrictions on that second farm in the future?
Through you, Your Worship, on its own, it could not be used for a residential lot. However, when it's joined with the farm to the south, that parcel could at some point be used for residential purposes. Like a house could be built on that farm. We wouldn't have any concerns with that because it would be in compliance with the zoning bylaw. They're allowed to do it today, and they're making the lot a little tiny bit bigger by adding that parcel, so they would still be allowed to have a home in there.
Okay, thank you. There's nothing else from council, then I'll take it to the public. Is there anyone here wanting to speak to this at all? No? Okay. So then, we can go on to motion, correct, when there's no one here? So moved by Councillor Jacobs and then seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. All in favor? And that's carried. I'm not forgetting you, Councillor Dunn. So we're going to move on to the report regarding the Bank Theatre and the Meeting Place Donation Match Challenge. And I believe there is a slight video, Brianna, that you're going to, or a small video that you're going to show ahead of time. Thank you. Could we get the lights over the, thank you. Thank you very much. That was great. Ms. Orton, I believe you're going to do the report.
Yes, thank you. Council of the Municipality of Leamington in 2006 gave staff the following direction regarding the authorizing of administration to negotiate the purchase agreement for the purchase of the Bank of Montreal building at 10 Erie Street South in Leamington for the sum of $2, and that administration meet with interested community groups and provide a report back to council for consideration on a recommended tenant for the building. The municipality took ownership of that Bank of Montreal building in 2006, and 4 years later, council further directed administration to begin negotiations with the Sun Parlor players to secure an ownership or an operational lease agreement. Administration did follow through with those negotiations, and the property was transferred to the Sun Parlor Players Community Theatre, whose corporate objectives are to promote interest in the stage production of theatrical performances, stage theatrical productions, and accept donations, gifts, devices, and bequests, and to hold, invest, and expend those funds to further these objectives. Over the years, a number of improvements have been made to the theater. However, another of further planned renovations were recently announced at an event at the Bank Theatre and Meeting Place. Improvements include exterior renovations and stage and seating upgrades. And you can see those drawings at the end of the report, but also I see that they're here in council chambers, and we did see them also on the video. During the unveiling of the proposed amendments or improvements, the municipality presented a challenge to the Bank Theatre and Meeting Place and its supporters. In order to continue to promote Leamington's vibrant arts and culture scene, it is recommended that to assist with the completion of the renovations, the municipality match all donations from the community made to the Bank Theatre and Meeting Place up to a maximum of $400,000. The matching of funds will only be applied to private donations and would exclude any funding received from any other level of government or government agency. Administration recently met with the Sun Parlor Players Community Theatre Organization relating to the construction of the theater, and it was discussed that the matching program continue for a period of 6 months from November till April 2018. Donations that will be matched will be controlled by the municipality, matched with the municipal donation and released in coordination with the progress payments for the capital costs as outlined in the construction contract. Donations would be made payable to the Sun Parlor Players Community Theatre for tax receipts to be appropriately issued. The municipality holds the assets of the Collins estate. Council's ability to use those assets is unfettered. It may use those assets as council may deem just and proper. The language of the Collins will did not place a restriction on the use of its assets. Previous councils have authorized by resolution the use of funds from the Collins estate for arts and culture related expenses such as exhibiting Leamington artifacts and collectibles, acquiring 62 to 64 Talbot Street West, renovating the Leamington Art Gallery, renovating the Leamington Art Center, and funding other activities involving arts and culture. The Collins estate currently has a balance of approximately $1.03 million. All donations, as indicated, would be collected and held by the municipality, deposited into a separate Sun Parlor Players Community Theatre bank account. This will ensure that the funds raised through community donations that are to be matched by the municipality are directed to the capital costs of the construction. So the recommendation is that the municipality of Leamington initiate this matching program for donations from the community made to the Bank Theatre and Meeting Place up to a maximum of $400,000 for the exclusive purpose of funding the capital costs of reconstructing the theatre, and that monies from the Collins Estate Reserve Fund be used to fund the donation match program.
Thank you, Ms. Orton. And I believe CAO would like to speak to this as well.
Yeah, just in addition, wanted council to know that this is the report that comes out of the mayor's direction at the big reveal that was held last Saturday at the Bank Theatre, where the mayor said, I believe it was, this is my non-committed commitment. In other words, the direction from administration from the mayor and council was to come with a matching program to see how we can initiate a matching program, and this report is as a result of that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Well, we'll start with council questions, and I believe, Mr. Hammond, you were first.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Um, I know it was an exciting night for those who were in attendance last Saturday evening, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago, Saturday at the Bank Theater, but I want to move the acceptance of the report with a comment that I think it's important to note the commitment and the dedication of not only the members, but the executive of the Bank Theater. When you see, I think there's at least 10 or 12 of them here this evening to show their support, and I'm sure to, I think, thank council and the municipality for what we're about to do for them. So I'll move the acceptance. I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Dunn. We still have some more questions or comments. Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you. I have just a couple of quick questions. I noticed in the video preceding the presentation here was the naming rights. Would they be consideration that, I know that could be quite a lucrative fundraiser there, but would we be taking away the Bank Theater if someone else comes along and says, I want to name it JoJo's Place or something?
No, I think the intention there is to offer only specific areas, so it won't be named. The Bank Theater won't be renamed. Only components of it, and I think that it's also important to acknowledge that while during the video we saw some examples of 50,000 or 10,000 or 5,000, there are also going to be the municipality under this program would match even the smallest of donations. So often there are coffee houses that occur and the money is there are donations made that evening. Even those will be matched. So there will be opportunities like buying seats, which are much smaller donation than the 5,000 we see here. These are larger donation amounts, but there will be smaller donations any money will be accepted and matched through this program. But I don't think the naming right is not for the Bank Theater naming right, it's for components within inside the building.
Okay, that was one of the concerns I had. I wouldn't want to see the name change. The second question I have, if I may, Madam Chair, is that, I know they want to get moving on this with these funds. Would the municipality be forwarding funds prior to some donations up to a certain amount as an example so they could go ahead and start completion of some of these projects that they want to do? I guess in lieu of type thing?
The discussion we had was that the monies would be released as the construction is being completed. My understanding is that there is sufficient funds right now to get started and to get to the next phase. That's really why, in discussing this with the Bank Theater board, that we wanted to have a time frame. I believe it's April. April time frame. They have money to get started now. It's not going to hold them up. But we want to see the donation activity occur by April so that when it's time for the next phase, we have sufficient funds to be able to forward to them along with the donations. So there isn't going to be, our understanding is that there is no money being forwarded to them except through the process that is described in the report.
Okay, I just wouldn't want to see the project get held up if there was, the slow coming in. The only other thing I want to say is I apologize. I, for one, was unable to attend the celebration that you had a couple of weeks ago due to a family situation. However, I wish you the very best on that, and I'm full supportive of what you're going for here tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Two comments, and I too, I'm very excited to support this worthy cause proposal you have before us here tonight. I hope it flies. I know it will. I hope our town really gets behind it and supports this initiative. Two comments that I bring though. I only received, it was one comment, and that was in regards to the spending of the Collins money. And I did some soul searching on that one to think, is this a worthy cause for us to be using this money towards? I didn't have to think too long about it because we've set precedents in the past by using this money towards the Leamington Arts Center. So that kind of, put us in the right to be using this money for this venture. I do believe in the theory behind that we're going to revitalize our uptown through the arts. I refer to it as the anchors lots of times, our Bank Theater, Leamington Arts Center, and I throw the library in there. They are what I consider our three anchors. And I really do feel that, I've heard Peter explain this before, that there's proof, there's reports written about uptowns will be revitalized, not so much through sports tourism, let's say, but through the arts. It really offers a unique atmosphere for many to enjoy in our uptown area. So as for that comment that I received about using the Collins money for this venture, I'm totally behind it. I think it's a very worthy cause to be using it for. My second comment is from our director of the Leamington Arts Center. I see Derek, you're here tonight. We both sit on the board at Leamington Arts Center. Chad, he wanted us to express our support for this project as well. Anything that brings awareness to the arts in uptown Leamington, or Leamington for that matter, is welcome and appreciated. And he wanted us to pass on that comment to council, administration, and the Bank Theater Group. So good luck to everybody. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, my question is regarding the naming rights. Is that going to be a permanent for those different sections in the Bank Theater, or are they going to be termed, because we've talked here on council, some of our venues of being termed so that you can re-get more money out of those opportunities? So that's what I'd be curious to find out. Thank you.
It's my understanding that just like the municipality will be looking for opportunities for naming rights for defined periods of time, that these naming rights may also be for defined periods of time. I think that the idea here tonight was to get out the idea that there are sponsorship opportunities, the amounts and the purposes of those naming rights I'm thinking are likely open to some negotiation. But generally speaking, that it's for a defined period of time.
Before we take the vote, I'd just like to say congratulations for this opportunity to all of you. Let's hope that everyone buys into it wholeheartedly. But isn't it nice that there's some attention, more attention being paid to arts and culture rather than always to sports? Because I do think that tends to be the method of operation for most municipalities. And I think sometimes that arts and culture gets to be the old maid sister or the bad cousin or whatever they happen to be. There's not enough attention brought to that. So I think it's a great moment in time for our community to see a fairly substantial amount of money put towards arts and culture. I'm hoping that you'll run with this and make this a destination for people, not only just in our county, but further than that, reaching into the province. And I do believe that you can do that. Kudos to all of you, too, for the work that you've done this far. I know it's been a daunting project, and without a fair bit of money coming in and sustained money coming in, it's hard to jump from one venture to another with keeping that positive feeling in your heart. So hoping this gives you a big launch to almost be into the end, to that finish line. So that being said, and I have nothing against sports, mind you. I'm just saying, those of us who can't throw a ball, can't golf, can't kick a ball, we're really happy to see this happen. Never mind. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. So we've deferred number 7.2. We'll move on to 7.3, which is the shoreline rehabilitation. And Shannon, that's you.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor and members of council. This report recommends that council authorize administration to issue a purchase order to Kobe Marine and Crane Service to complete shoreline rehabilitation at the municipal property located on Robson Road, just west of the Selkirk Drain. The property is located between the Selkirk Drain and 134 Robson Road, and it previously housed the former sampling station for the Leamington Pollution Control Center. That structure was recently demolished with the LPCC demo project. However, the outfall sewer for the plant is still located on this property. The location of the site was shown in the key map provided in the report. Following some significant storm events throughout the spring and summer months of this year, administration received a call from a neighboring resident with concern regarding the property damage that continues to occur to the shoreline. Administration visited the site and found debris washed up onto the property and visible signs of shoreline erosion, which has resulted over the years from storms, wave action, runoff, and loss of trees and other vegetation. There are some photographs also provided in the report for your reference. The natural shoreline is a valuable and important area as it provides habitat for fish and wildlife and provides structural integrity to the water's edge. Administration requested quotes to repair the shoreline with armor stone, which provides a more natural-looking shoreline and is widely used in many shoreline applications today. Only one quotation was submitted by Kobe Marine and Crane Services. Although this project was not budgeted for in 2017, administration has identified the need to improve the shoreline protection for this property and is therefore recommending the project be funded from the PCC reserve account. The PCC reserve account balance is estimated to be $6.1 million at the end of 2017, and funding the $24,000 for this project will not have a significant impact on that reserve. In closing, the recommendation before Council is that administration be authorized to issue a purchase order to Kobe Marine and Crane Service in an amount of $24,150, excluding HST, to be funded by the PCC reserve account for shoreline rehabilitation at the municipal property on Robson Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Comments, questions? Councillor Jacobs. It's a motion you're moving, seconded by Councillor Rubicki. Did you have a comment?
Yes, I just want to make sure that we have all the proper permits for this.
All the proper permits in place?
Yes, the $24,150 includes the IRCA permit. Yep.
No questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving on next to the Union Water Distribution System Inspection Report. Shannon.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with the 2017 Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change Drinking Water Inspection Report for the Leamington Union Distribution System. The Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change conducts annual inspections on municipal residential drinking water systems to determine compliance with the Safe Water Act, associated regulations, and compliance approvals. The Union Distribution System was inspected on September 12th, and the final report provided in October. The operator of the system is required to provide the inspection reports to the owner of the system through Council and obtain a resolution confirming receipt of the report. In addition, the report is to be posted online and available for review or download by the public. This Council report will also satisfy the requirement to advertise the availability of the report online. During the ministry inspection, there were no items of noncompliance identified, nor any recommendations provided for consideration. The inspection summary rating record generated indicated a risk rating of 0% and a compliance rating of 100%. In closing, the recommendation before Council is that the Ontario Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change Drinking Water System Inspection Report for the Leamington Union Distribution System be received, and the report be placed on the municipality's website and also be made available during normal business hours for public inspection. Thank you.
Thank you. Question? Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not so much a question as I just think that we should acknowledge, like Rodney at the Union Water, that us that sit on the Union Water Committee, that he's doing a great job along with the Aqua staff up there. 100% compliant is quite an achievement, I believe, and I think we should acknowledge their hard work. Thank you.
And was that a motion? Or was? Okay. Seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. Did you have anything to say? No? Anyone else? Councillor Hammond.
Deputy Mayor, thank you. Yeah, and to Councillor Jacobs' point, I think we discussed at our last Aqua meeting that we should make this public and let people know that our water is clean and safe to drink, and I think that's very important. So, again, to Shannon, thank you for the report, and it needs to be got out there so people have some confidence in the fact that they do have clean water.
Well, Mr. Chaplin is sitting at the back, so hopefully we'll get some free publicity to that effect. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Moving on to the Municipal Marina GH dock construction, Terry Simons. And Mr. Malaconi. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council. Here tonight to discuss the award of the construction portion of the GH dock replacement project. It's recommended to award this project to Croft Industrial in the amount of $884,488, excluding HST. It is also recommended that $400,000 be taken from the Marina Reserve account to fund the additional cost of the project. It's recommended to amend the 2018 fee schedule to include an increased rate of seasonal mooring of service docks to boats equal to or greater than 50 feet. Finally, it is recommended that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the contract. During the process of cleaning up from the 2010 tornado damage at the marina, insurance covered the cost to replace all but the GH docks. Over the last 7 years, this dock has quickly deteriorated. Administration has been performing the necessary repairs in the interim to keep the dock operational. The repair of the GH dock was originally budgeted for the 2016 boating season, and due to the nature of the work involved and following a condition assessment, it was determined to move this work to 2017. Due to the significance of the investment, it was also determined to bring on a consultant to oversee this project and assist with the design of the GH dock. And I've brought Mr. Malaconi in from Dillon to answer any technical questions that there may be following the report. Again, the original budget did not include the complete replacement of the electrical pedestals and subsequent infrastructure. Since we had the consultant on board, we looked at those in greater detail. The scope of the project was also expanded to include the design and installation of 10 docks along the North Promenade Wall. These docks will recover 10 docks that are lost due to the redesign of the existing GH dock configuration to accommodate a trend of larger vessels in our marina. In late September, we posted the tender documents on our website and reached out to contractors to advise them of the project. Prior to closing on October 12th, administration fielded calls from contractors on this project. Although we had 9 plan takers registered on the website, we received 2 tenders as summarized on the report. These numbers have come in significantly higher than anticipated, even with the expanded scope of work. And in an attempt to mitigate the overexpenditure, administration has recommended an increase to the seasonal mooring on boats 50 feet and larger. Based on current marina occupancy, this will increase our seasonal revenue by approximately $5,000. We also will attempt to recover this amount by deferred future capital projects where necessary. The 2017 Marina Capital Account has approved funding in the amount of $480,000 for the dock project. The Marina Reserve Account is projected to have $602,000 at the end of 2017. Funding the project this way will bring the Marina Reserve account to approximately $200,000. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. Council, start with Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. First of all, just a question on which is the GH dock? Is that the closest one to the ramp? Secondly, you talk about putting docks along the north wall. Are they going to be running parallel with the shoreline or perpendicular in your plans?
They'd be perpendicular to the shore wall with a parallel promenade wall adjacent to the existing wall.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you. I have concerns with those, like you're putting in the huge docks, you're going 50-foot docks, which will accommodate the boats that are there, which are up to 65 and 70 feet, I would presume. With the mooring of boats on the promenade wall, and the amount of boaters that are using that ramp, like on Saturdays and Sundays, that thing is just packed, and that's when you're going to have all these large vessels in there. I'm afraid you're going to create a logjam in there for these larger boats and create a real hazard. The other aspect I have of it as well is I know there has been some discussions, or we have discussed, and I've discussed with our CEO on some times about utilization of that particular area for other possible adventures for the municipality to generate more revenue in that particular area. And I think going along with those 10 additional docks at this time might hinder that type of a project. So I'm in favor of the larger docks with the large vessels, but being a boater that's down there as well at times, that I'm afraid that those 10 additional docks on that wall will create some type of a havoc. Currently, docks are able to, or rather vessels are able to dock there currently under what's facilities that are available to them. There's power and there's water there. So I just want to bring that forward.
Did you want to answer that?
I guess the intention of looking at that North Promenade wall, not only with, we're restricted how far out we can go with the existing GH footprint, given the depth of the water and just the agitation, the exposure to the elements, is how far the dock currently is. So we don't want to go any further out to make up those 10 docks that we're losing by making the docks larger. Part of that North Promenade wall, we do have an increased amount of the charter fishing groups that are there. So it was talked about utilizing those spaces for those charter fishermen to dock there, kind of separate them from the pleasure cruisers versus the charter fishing company. So it's kind of to separate that and keep them a little bit away from them. From a logistics side of things, as far as turning radiuses, given the size of the boats, logistically and schematically, it seems to work out and pass any of the clearances that are required for the boat sizes we're looking to accommodate. That was the intention of looking at the North Promenade wall. As we moved forward and looked at it further, as part of the recommendation to include that in our recommendation anyways, to purchase the installation of those docks for that reason.
I see the concept that you're working on, putting the fishing vessels on the promenade wall, and to me that I guess it's an attraction in one way and a deterrent in another. With those vessels there and the fish, and I know that there's a lot of fish cleaning. We've talked about fish stations before, cleaning stations and so forth. So me, I guess it's sort of a twofold concern in that particular area. As far as adding 10 more docks, I mean, like those days where that particular area has been unable to dock a vessel or had to turn away vessels has been a few years back, I would recommend. But anyway, I think it's a great project. We need the larger dock for those larger vessels that are up 65 feet and more right there right now. So I agree. The only concern I had is on that promenade wall. As I said, vessels are able to utilize that wall currently because there is power, water, and everything there that's required. So I guess I just hate to see that extra funds go there where we're not really sure what we want to do with that particular area at this time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. CEO?
We didn't take lightly the cost of these slips, these extra slips, but when we talked about this issue, we talked about what is the core competency of the marina. Well, it's to put boats into slips, and when we enlarge the GH docks as slips, we are decreasing the number of slips that we have available, which without replacing them or without any further addition, the charter boats would be dispersed amongst the recreational boaters, which also raises difficulties between the charter and the recreational boating. So given that the core competency of the marina is to put boats in slips, and we have these this area where we can now create a controlled area. Again, we didn't take lightly, but knowing how we have invested in the marina, that it is seen as a jewel on Lake Erie, we thought that this would be the best way to move the marina forward. And I know that there are some other ideas about how to utilize the marina from a revenue perspective. But if we start with the core competencies, we start with getting boats into slips. From there, we can grow again. But again, on that note, the report indicates that we'd like to do this work now, and which we'll recoup by backing off on large expenditures in the near future, in the 2018 budget. We think we need to get the marina back into, well, the GH dock needs to be done. There's no discussion around that. So really what it comes down to is, do we need to do the 10 slips that we're proposing on the north wall? And even given the price and given the increase in revenue, we believe that it's the right thing to do at this time. We didn't take it lightly, and we certainly knocked this around the meeting room as well. But our recommendation is fairly strong that we believe that this is in the best interest of the future of the marina.
Well, I have Councillor Hammond next, and then you can respond. I'm following the order here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to switch gears a bit then. Terry, to my question, is there any cost recovery for the existing GH dock? I mean, is it a sellable product, the one that we're going to take out?
It is something that other municipalities have done, and we did explore that option by putting the slips up for sale. Part of the removal cost from the contractor includes the removal and storage on site, with the intention of selling that possibly to somebody as opposed to just throwing it away. So we are still exploring that option. We wanted to wait to get the contractor on board. Early indications have said that they may assist us with that, finding a purchaser for that. I can't say that definitively at this point in time, but we are exploring selling the existing GH dock, and possibly even looking at the pedestals that are in fair condition. And that's the other bonus of having the consultant on board to assist us with the condition of the infrastructure as it's taken out. We can possibly use the old pedestals for parts if needed down the road.
Councillor Jacobs, your rebuttal.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, going back to this catering to the fishing, I guess, charters, that's what you were referring to, I believe, right, Terry? Like, they're only there like 2 months out of the year, or a month and a half. They come early spring and then they leave first part of August or July. And I guess my main concern with this, though, is that we're really, we're not looking forward to that promenade section for better utilization, I guess, where I'm going with that. So, I agree to disagree with you, Mr. Neufeld, but on the other side, like, I know it's a revenue gender at this time, these fishing charters, but again, they're only there for like 6 weeks, and I think they're just on a monthly or weekly lease, are they not, Terry?
Yeah, they are currently. There are some that stay longer. In conversation with Ronan, they are looking at if it was a spot that they had that wasn't in conflict with the recreational boaters, there is that potential where they do stay longer. It does bring people in. We do notice groups of people coming in, maybe from areas that wouldn't necessarily be just in Leamington, but from the county, groups of businesses and that coming out to use the marina and use these charter fishing businesses to go out and see the beautiful marina we have and the beautiful municipality and take part of everything that we have to offer here. So it's kind of that next step of getting to that next level of bringing people to the municipality as an attraction that maybe draws a little bit of a longer season for them. At the end of the day, they'll go where the fish are, but at the same time, they're there.
Well, I'm not disputing that, but I grow with the GH docks, but I'm against the other additional 10 slips. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Terry, I don't see anywhere on here where it says whether or not we've worked with this contractor in the past. Have they done any work at our marina before?
There are two main players that have done work. One is Kehoe and one is Croft. And they've both done work at the marina. They've worked with Dylan as well in the past.
No one else? Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Terry, my question is regarding, so the dock coming off the north wall, being 60 feet, what is the space from the GH dock to that space in between the north dock and the GH dock? How much space will be allotted to allow the boats?
I don't know specifically the exact spacing offhand, the numbering. The piers off of the north dock are 40-footers, and then the H side of the GH dock is a 60-foot. And so the turning radiuses for both of those boats are not in conflict, and there's still adequate spacing for the actual access ramp, for the boat ramp as well there. So it's a matter of a coordination issue in terms of the number of boats that are there.
And these boats that you're expecting to get in the future, do we have some of those in our marina already?
Yes, we currently have the charter fishing industry in our marina. They do dock currently throughout the marina, as opposed to isolating them to a specific dedicated area for them.
The 50 plus? Yeah.
Oh, the larger, sorry, the
Yeah,
larger, I thought you were referring to the charter fishermen.
That's what we're...
I'm sorry.
No, maybe my question wasn't asked properly.
So part of the exercise that I did with accommodating the larger vessels and estimating a $5,000 increase in revenue did take into account our current occupancy. So with what we currently have, boats that are 50 plus, we would gain an additional $5,000 of revenue. Anything more than what we currently have, which we hope to draw, and if the trend continues, we'll get more. That'll be in addition to what our existing cost per foot is. So currently we have about 7 to 10 seasonals that are 50 plus, potentially an additional 3 or 4 that are monthly that possibly will look at seasonal. And then anything above that would be in addition to.
But we currently have 7 that we use right now, and up to 10, because some come in on a monthly basis. And how many spaces do we actually have in the marina to accommodate? We have obviously the 10 now, but do we have any more? Or?
Sorry, the current H side is, I believe, 13 slips, but there's, I think, our larger boats parked parallel right now they don't fit there at this time. The new H side will have 10 slips, so space for 20 large boats. So that's why the additional accommodation to the north side to make up the difference.
No one else? I just wanted to say, Terry, I thought you'd get more pushback over the amount of dollars that you're asking for rather than the weeds of the necessity of the North Promenade docks. I just wanted to say that I'm really tickled that we're moving ahead on this. I think back to probably 2007, and I looked around the room and I realized I was probably one of the only ones here in 2007, when we first talked about replacing the docks at the marina and how we were going to nickel and dime it. And then 2010 came and we kind of had an answer to our prayers and a whole lot of work got done and we didn't have to spend all that money. So to me, I'm really pleased that we are doing this. if we're going to have a top-notch facility, we have to keep it top-notch. And that just raises a little bit of fear when I see reducing capital requests over the next 2 years. I don't want us to get to that point where we then have to scramble and dig deep. Because really, we put this off in enough years that now we're probably paying more than we would have had we done it 7 years ago. So anyway, for me, I'm glad we're moving ahead. I think it's timely. I think we need to keep our marina as a top-notch facility. You can't start letting it get shabby or worn looking, so this is great. So was there a motion made at any point in time? No? Does anyone wish to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Hammond, seconded by Councillor Dunn. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Moving on to the Rickway Park development, and Mr. Brown, that is you.
Thank you, and good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of Council. So in the 2017 Parks budget, $70,000 was approved towards the development of Rickway Park. And if you'll recall, $50,000 of this was funded from the sale of a municipally owned residential lot, which was adjacent to the park, and it was sold to Habitat for Humanity, and they've since then built a house on that lot. So the proposed plan for the development of the park includes traditional benches and some more additional trees for shade, but as well as a play structure and swings. So a request for proposal was issued. We put the specified maximum budget amount into the RFP, and this would include the supply and installation of the play equipment. So we received 4 proposals, and after reviewing the submissions, administration chose the Play Power proposal as a preferred option. They offered a fairly unique concept that was different to some of the other parks that are surrounding that area, because there's a Donald Park to the east, the marina, the Battleship, Seacliff, the Kinsman Ball Diamond. So we kind of felt that this was a unique structure and that it would offer that area some more options for children to play in. So it also fit quite nicely in the smaller footprint of the park. When we had the public talk about the sale of the residential lot, some of the residents kind of they said that they enjoyed the open green space. So if you see how the park is kind of laid out, we feel there's an adequate space in the middle just for green space to throw a baseball around or a football or something like that. So it worked out quite nicely, and that's why we chose it, or are proposing it now. So we did send letters out last week, Tuesday. We actually hand-delivered them to all the residents in that area there. To date, to my knowledge, we haven't received any comments or feedback from any of the residents. The total cost to develop the park as proposed is approximately $65,000, and that includes tax. So the recommendation is that the purchase of a play structure for the Rickway Park in the amount of $47,497 plus HST from Play Power Canada be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, comments? Councillor Wilkinson. Well,
Thank you, Mr.
Councillor
Brown.
Wilkinson was
What's the
first.
proposed timeline on this project?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, pending approval, we would order it first thing tomorrow morning. And basically, we've talked to the playground supplier. Weather permitting, they can do it as long as the ground isn't frozen solid. They can put it in. So we would try and get it in this year. If we all of a sudden get a bad winter or something like that, as soon as the ground's thawing, we would install it. So it would be ready for sure for early spring.
Fantastic, Ken. I like the design. I think it is kind of a unique structure. I haven't seen one. I kind of fancy myself as a playground expert with the amount I visit them. And yeah, this is a unique looking structure. I really like it. Good work.
It's only for kids to eat as well.
Well, Mr. Playground Expert, did you want to make that a motion? Seconded by Councillor Jacobs. All in favor? And that's carried. So you can order that tomorrow there, Mr. Brown. We're ready. And now we move on to sidewalk construction for Oak Street West, and that's Mr. Botham.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The purpose of this report is to award a contract to Georgie Brothers to construct sidewalk along Oak Street West between Nicholas and Fraser Road and make some uptown improvements to the existing sidewalk system. The 2016 federal budget included for the Public Transit Infrastructure Fund, or PTIF. And in that program, Leamington was eligible to receive $50,000 as a base amount, plus another $49,000 based on our ridership for our transit system, for a total of just over $99,000. The PTIF program will provide 50% funding of our project cost up to the $99,000. I didn't mention it in the report, but we had two projects under this program. One is the Transit Master Plan and this sidewalk program. So $65,000 of the $99,000 is assigned or earmarked for the sidewalk construction. So the municipality, again, did propose for the extension of sidewalk at the western limit of our transit system along Oak Street West to Fraser Road from Nicholas. The subject tender also included for modifications to sidewalk in our uptown area, such as replacing empty tree areas with new stamped concrete and replacing brick paving stones with colored stamped concrete along Talbot Street East between Erie Street and Wellington Street. These items are part of the 2017 Public Works budget. So on September the 20th, the municipality closed tenders. We received a single tender, and that was from Georgie Brothers Construction in the amount of just over $242,000. Administration has been actively working on the design and planning to construct the sidewalk along the south side of Oak Street West between Nicholas and Fraser Road. Residents have been informed and businesses have been informed, and they're generally supportive of the works. We did run into two difficulties with two existing utilities. There are Hydro 1 guy and anchor assemblies that you can see in Figure 1 of the report. And there's a water valve chamber that's part of our water main feed to Leamington. And they've added challenges to this project. I'll describe that in a minute. The water main exists under the southern curb line and boulevard of Oak Street. So through Hydro 1, the two guy and anchor assemblies were reconstructed onto the north side of Oak Street to provide us with the 1.5 meter sidewalk space with clearance to run our snow clearing equipment. And this work has already been completed. An investigation of the water chamber in the boulevard in front of municipal address 114 Oak Street West concluded that the chamber, as constructed, would not support the weight of our sidewalk plow. The chamber is in fact 10.6 meters long by 4.8 meters wide, filling much of the boulevard, and therefore we couldn't avoid it with an alternative route. An abandonment of this chamber will cost $60,000, and we've worked with the Union Water System to negotiate 50% contribution to this cost. We did consider an alternate alignment by placing the sidewalk along the north side of Oak Street, but through our analysis, we feel the south side provides the greatest benefit at this time, as the sidewalk along the north side of Oak Street would not provide service to the Sandy Lake subdivision and not link the Leamington Transit stop at Ellison and Oak to local businesses without the immediate need for pedestrian crossover. Sidewalk along the south side of Oak creates a continuous link between Fraser Oak Talbot intersection and the pedestrian crossing at the trail near the new Leamington High School. The sidewalk already exists on the north side of Oak Street between Armstrong Drive and Erie Street South and beyond, servicing the neighborhoods north of Oak Street West. There's a significant number of driveways along the north side of Oak Street West between Armstrong Drive and Fraser Road. The final alignment would see a 1.5 meter wide sidewalk constructed between Nicholas and Carter, set approximately 1.2 meters south of the curb line, And then just west of Carter, the sidewalk alignment would shift toward the curb, and we'd install a 1.8 meter wide sidewalk, continuing to the west against the curb all the way to Fraser Road. The tender price again for the work was just over $242,000, which is over our initial budget of $155,000. Table 1 shows a breakdown of the Georgie Brothers submission, with $192,000 toward the sidewalk on Oak, $40,000 for sidewalks in the uptown area, and we did include a $15,000 contingency allowance in this contract. But considering this is an important project and we did receive significant PTIF funding, administration is recommending that the project continue to move forward. So administration negotiated the project costs with the single tenderer, Georgie Brothers, and the contractor agreed to reduce several unit prices and reduce the uptown works such that the total construction contract price would be $182,000. Administration has also discussed the water valve chamber again with the Union Water System, and we did secure 50% funding for that work. So you can see in Table 2 the total estimated project cost to complete the work, including design, property acquisition, utility relocations, as well as recommended funding sources are all presented in Table 2. Administration is recommending that the variance of $66,000 be funded from the General Infrastructure Improvement account in the engineering capital budget. So again, we are recommending that a contract be awarded to Georgie Brothers and that up to $66,925 be charged to the General Infrastructure Fund, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to enter into necessary agreements.
I told you, oh, there you go. Something wrong with this thing when I sit in this chair. Oh, the mayor wants me to look bad while he's gone. Yeah. Anyway. Yes, Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The 60,000 for the valve pit, is that 60,000 our 50%, or is that prior to 50/50?
That would be prior to. That's the total cost.
So that'd be 30,000 for the
Yes.
for the pit on our cost. The other thing I have is I didn't with the high school. I remember something coming up with the pit, but there was a chamber that they had to do because of the sidewalk there or whatever. Is this the same one, or is this like I'm not familiar where 114 is? Oak.
This is a different chamber. That was the one in front of the high school was much smaller and closer to our trail. This one is, I believe, between just west of Armstrong on the south side of Oak.
And you mentioned here abandonment of this pit. Like, what is it? Just an inspection pit, or is there a pipe running through it, or like? I guess I'm a little bit lost as to the actual need or use of this thing.
And in fact, it hasn't been used in a while. It's quite a large chamber. I've never seen one that big, but it had 2 or 3 bypass channels in it, or bypass pipes in it, so that they could close the main valve and run water through some bypass channels or bypass piping. And it hasn't been used for a number of years. I suspect it may have had something to do with the transition between Union Water and Mercia Township, and then transitioning into the town of Leamington. But by abandoning it, we will take the top off and separate the system inside from the walls of the chamber, because right now they poured the concrete against the pipe, so it's bonded to the walls of the chamber. We'll separate that through cutting it and then filling it with unshrinkable fill so that it will be fill all the way up to the surface.
And I have one more, if I may, Madam
Sure.
Mayor. A single source on this again, was there no other bids came in, or is this my typical question, I guess? But anyway, like, why is there just one bidder? I thought in this curb business it was quite competitive.
Well, we were hoping for more interest too. Typically we get 2 or 3 on our sidewalk contracts. Parasensi and Direct Flow and maybe Coco Concrete, but it seems that a number of municipalities have funding programs. There's a lot of work out at the moment. But the good news is that we did speak with the contractor, and in fact, his unit prices are virtually identical to last year's unit prices.
Then one final question, if I may. Because we have our budgets in early and we're doing this sidewalk, why are we late in the season putting bids out for this? You know, I know when you come before us for budget time that, you know, all this stuff is slated so we can get good bids on contracts and access more competitors. But like now we're into November, October, these bids are just going out. Is there rhyme or reason for that one, or?
Well, this particular one was a bit of a challenge because we did run into this chamber that, as I understand it, Union Water wasn't aware of. So that delayed things by a couple of months. That in itself delayed this project. But we have work, and we try to get it out as soon as we can. And some things are first, and some things are last. This job happened to be the last this year.
Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Alan, I was just curious, along Councillor Jacobs, when would the construction be started? Would they attempt maybe, and morely for the uptown area is what I'm concerned about. When would you think they could get started on that construction?
As I understand it, as soon as this is approved, they'll call for their locates, and I would imagine you'll see some work within the next 2 weeks. Start.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Alan, the affected residents over on in this stretch here, I thought for sure, we've been talking about this for about a year now. I thought for sure I'd hear, usually do hear some pushback when it comes to sidewalks. I haven't heard nothing. Has your department, have they received any concerns from any affected residents in this stretch when it comes to Oak Street?
We had very good response. Andy Dowling, one of my the new project managers, was out and met with each resident and property owner individually. And curiously enough, he came back and said, I got a great response from everyone. And we thought we were well on our way, and we ran into the utility issues, and that delayed things. So it was just a unique area.
That's fantastic. My second question is, I'm not always 100% sure when projects qualify as a local improvement. I thought this would have been, a portion of this would have been assessed to those affected residents over there. Obviously, they're not. I'm just wondering why this isn't considered a local improvement.
Well, I can safely say that I've been doing the small sidewalk contracts for the last 10 years, and we haven't done the standalone sidewalk contracts as local improvement projects. It seems to be our practice.
Okay, and I believe Councillor Verbicki had a question.
Well, I was going to bring it up under other matters, but I've been getting a couple complaints from Westmoreland and Churchill about garbage. Are we going to put any garbage containers up on those two streets along with this street, even though they may not throw the garbage in the can, but at least they're there? That's another issue that will probably be coming up with some residents.
Well, I guess they'll take it under advisement, Mr. Verbicki, staff. Well, it's nice you didn't get any complaints, but those yards are quite deep, Alan. So the sidewalks aren't going to impact them like they did on certain other streets that have come before us. So I can see why there might not be as much. But isn't it funny how you end up having no trouble with the usual, and then you have an unusual? Well, that's just how it goes. Oh, Councillor Wilkinson, something else?
And one last question. Alan, that portion of that road, that's a county road, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Did the county, did they volunteer to put any money towards this project? Or did we, did we throw it up to them at least to ask?
Typically, the county does not pay for the construction of sidewalks in built-up and settlement areas such as this.
And there's no CWAS connections in
This
this
area,
in this
no.
stretch?
Sorry, this area is not part of the CWATS program.
All right.
Other than signed roads, I think there's share the road signs in this area.
All right. Well, thank you.
Well, if there's nothing else, then I would entertain a motion to award the, you will move that, Councillor Dunn. Thank you. And since I'm turning in this direction, then I suppose Councillor Hammond might second it? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Alan. Moving on to the Health and Safety Awards Employee Recognition, Mr. Neufeld.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. As you can see from the report, I'm asking for the policy, the award Health and Safety Awards Employee Recognition be repealed. There was a time when I think there was an attempt to incentivize the employees to work safely. Well, at the municipality, people, it is the culture to work safely. And my concern with this policy is when awards are provided to people who don't have lost time due to compensable accidents. My concern is that somebody who becomes injured in the workplace would not report that injury for a simple reason of not wanting to be disqualified from potentially receiving an award. It's counterproductive. What we want is the injuries to be reported. In fact, what we'd really like is the close calls where no one is injured, but a potential accident has occurred. A door slams too quickly, and somebody gets their hand out of the way. We want it reported that that door is not functioning properly before an accident occurs. These are called leading indicators. So the culture that we're trying to get to reward at the municipality is one of recognizing people's behaviors away from just the plain duties of their job. We don't want it to be based on not reporting an accident. The municipality is attempting to recognize employees' behaviors that we feel are in keeping with the values of the municipality. And so we're suggesting that this policy can be repealed. The employee recognition program is actually, we're trying to revitalize it somewhat based on the values that the municipality wants to see within its workforce. There wouldn't be any financial implications because the Employee Appreciation Night, which this year is occurring November the 10th, would still, tickets would still be sold under the same principles. It just wouldn't have the award component for non-compensable injuries. And so the recommendation is for this particular policy to be repealed.
Thank you. Council's wishes? Recommendation moved by Councillor Jacobs, seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. Are there comments? All in favor? All in favor? Carried. And then we move on to the vacancy rebate elimination. Ms. Roach.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The report in front of Council tonight is the next step in the elimination of the vacancy rebate program. Currently, vacant properties are eligible for a tax rebate programs at a rate of 30% for commercial and 35% for industrial. You'll recall that in 2016, new legislation was introduced to provide greater flexibility for municipalities to review the vacancy rebate program to reflect the community needs and circumstances while considering the interests of our local businesses. So as a requirement to request changes to the Ministry of Finance for these programs, municipalities at the local and county levels must engage the community through a public consultation process. So that countywide open house was held on September 27th from 4 to 7. A slide presentation, which is attached to the appendix to tonight's agenda, was also presented. And representatives from the county and each of the local municipalities were present at the open house. So property owners were invited to provide their comments on the proposed elimination of the program at the open house, or alternatively through an online survey available from September 18th through to September 30th, or by direct email to the county. So there were 32 responses in total to the online survey. 2 emails were received and 1 attendee at the open house. The results of the public consultation process are included in the report. So after reviewing the feedback received, the consensus of the county tax collectors and treasurer group remains that the vacancy rebate program be eliminated for the 2018 taxation year. So Ministry of Finance approval is required to make any changes to this program. So it is anticipated that the decision of County Council will be sent to the Minister of Finance prior to the end of 2017, requesting that the recommended change be implemented for 2018. For the financial implications, there have been fewer applications I've previously reported being submitted looking back over the last 8 years as outlined on page 62 of the agenda. So elimination of this program will allow the municipality to redirect approximately $20,000 per year towards other programs and services, and or be used to mitigate pressures on the general tax levy starting in 2019. So the recommendation before council this evening is that the elimination of the vacant unit property tax rebate program in Leamington and Essex County be supported, and that the Essex County Council is encouraged to seek approval from the Minister of Finance to enact a regulation for Essex County to eliminate this program commencing for the 2018 taxation year. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Councillor Jacobs? Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Laura, under the comment section, I'm just curious, do you benefit from a tax reduction for a vacant unit or / land? And out of the response of 32, 26 said no. Are they not applying, or is there a rhyme or reason to that one? Like, it would seem to me it would be just the opposite.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the survey was open to the public, so it wasn't just those applicants that were permitted to participate in the survey, so it would have included our general population.
Anyone else? Councillor Rubicki?
How many were from Leamington of your 32 respondents?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, unless they self-identified, it wasn't a requirement of the survey. There were a few from Leamington that did self-identify, but it's difficult to tell out of the 32.
Anyone else? Councillor Hammond?
Deputy Mayor, thank you. Laura, under the rebate system, I mean, it comes down to some form of honesty. So if we have a large building that declares its vacancy, I guess it would require that we send someone out there periodically to inspect that to ensure that either the whole building or a part of it is vacant. Is that not true? So there is a cost attached to that as well, isn't there? Now, does bylaw do that type of work for us, or who in the past have done that?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I believe it was building services, but more recently, the tax collectors have been taking on that responsibility. In fact, they did a site visit, I believe, just a couple weeks ago on a property, and there have been applications that have been denied because there are very specific requirements. It has to be vacant. So if it's being used as storage, that disqualifies the applicant. So our team is actively making sure that we are making sure that these people are honest with their application.
Yeah, and to my point, it comes down to honesty. And again, it's resources that stretch our people out doing the type of inspections that we shouldn't have time to do.
Great. If there's no one else, The kicker for me is point number 5 in disadvantages. The rebate program is for commercial and industrial properties and is recovered through general taxation. Why should we as the taxpayers be paying for this rebate? I don't think that is a burden that any of us would need to bear. There's incentive there, get your building rented. Lower the rent if you have to, put on a fresh coat of paint, get it rented. And Mr. and Mrs. Joe Smith do not have to pay for that. So, anyway, my 2 cents. Oh, you have a comment, Mr. Verbeke?
Just a
Councilor
question.
Verbeke?
Sorry, thank you, worthy chair. Just a question. I know Essex is going this way. What about if the county, well, there you go, 4 out of the 7 municipalities don't want it? I mean, our county reps are doing the best they can, but sometimes down here in the remote southern Ontario, remote Essex County, we don't get heard as loud. So what happens if we just status quo then?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, it is on a individual county basis, so each county can apply, or each county will apply if they want to reduce or eliminate the rebate. With the local or the lower tier municipalities, we can have different opinions on how we want to go forward. The thought with the tax collector and the treasurer's group was that if we had a unanimous or a consensus moving forward to the county and then to the minister, it would likely receive more approval. I also want to note that we were somewhat disappointed in the feedback that we received. Of course, it was only 32 email responses. Based on what we found out from OMTRA and other municipalities that have already gone forward, their feedback was very limited as well, so their experiences were very similar.
Further?
Thank you. Can we do what we want if the county says, no, we're going to leave it the way it is? Are we still stuck under their regime?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, tax policy is an upper tier decision, so it's made at the county level. A requirement of this legislation is that it is endorsed by this council and then move forward to the upper tier. So it is part of the whole process.
I'll start the ball rolling and I'll move the recommendation.
Moved by Councilor Verbeke, seconded by Councilor Jacobs. Further to that, Laura, if I may, but did you not get the impression that there was a consensus with the group that met, the finance people? Because I was of that impression when it was first bandied about at County Council, that they're definitely, the majority feel it's time to move forward in that direction.
Absolutely. There is almost unanimous consensus, and everyone's report will be, is going forward with the proposed elimination.
Okay.
Completely.
Great, okay, thank you very much. So the motion's on the floor, all in favor? And that's carried, thank you. Thank you, Laura. Well, that's it for reports. We're moving on to matters for approval. Minutes of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee meeting, held May 9th. Moved by Councilor Verbeke, seconded by Councilor Jacobs. All in favor? And that's carried. Are there, no, I guess there aren't any other matters for consideration, and there is not a report on closed session. We move on to consideration of bylaws. Ms. Percy.
Bylaw 80-17 was deferred with report earlier to the November 4th council meeting. Bylaw 81-17 being a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 89-09 for the municipality of Leamington, which pertains to the subject lands ZBA 162-504 Talbot Road East. That's from the public meeting earlier this evening. And bylaw 82-17 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the municipality of Leamington at its meeting held October 23rd, 2017.
Thank you. Wishes of council, moved by Councillor Dunn, seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. Sorry, all in favor? And that's carried. There are no notices of motion, so we'll move on to open session. Councillor Hammond?
Deputy Mayor, thank you. For all of us that attended the United Mennonite Gala on Saturday evening, maybe you were going to make mention of that already, I'm sure others were. It was a great night, and for the 450 people that were there or attendees, it was a very inspiring night in all the good that they do, and I want to compliment our CAO. He conducted himself very well, as the Master of Ceremonies, and it was a great meal. All in all, it was just an exciting night.
Thank you, Councillor Hammond, and we're moving on to Councillor Dunn.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to bring, we had a BIA meeting, and they're having the Halloween crawl next Tuesday. Any businesses that are participating will have balloons on the outside, and that's to hand out candy for kids and stuff. So if anybody gets to the downtown area, please stop into some of the local businesses to get some candy for your kids or yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I wanted to thank our Leamington Fire Department for inviting us out to their community barbecue they held on Tuesday night of last week. Fantastic night. A lot of fun had by everybody. Families come out to this, and it was really well attended. My first time going, great food, a lot of entertainment. We stayed for, I think, 2 hours we were there that night. Anyway, a fantastic night. Thank you to our Leamington Fire Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to make comment. Last week, I attended an open house at the Shire Complex in regards to opioids, and I was somewhat taken back by some of the statistics that was presented to us. The Essex County area has been identified as a real hotspot, and certain sections of our municipality have been identified as hotspots. And I was quite taken back with some of the statistics that were given to us in respect to some of the ages of the individuals that are, I guess for better lack of a better term, hooked on drugs. And they start out at 10, 11, 12 years old. And it was really disheartening to sit there and listen to these statistics. So I guess what I'm trying to get across is that individuals, parents, and so forth should look for signs of abnormal behavior with their children or their home residents as to the possibilities that are taking place, and seek help for these individuals. Like I say, it's just astonishing when you look at the hot spots and where they're at. And I know that Lake Leamington per se has been identified as well, but I guess it's because things happen in Leamington. This is a spot for individuals gather. We have the shopping, we have the entertainment is all here and so forth. And so it's a hot spot for the distribution, I guess, of drugs. We're no different than any other community that have these types of problems. But I don't know, I guess individuals should really look at this, and it's unbelievable. I guess I'm lost for words for trying to come up with a description. I know our CAO has been involved with some of the discussions on it. If he'd add to some of that, I don't know. But anyway, it's quite an epidemic that we are facing out there. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I can't remember what I did last week. I'm just going to tell you what I did tonight. 5 o'clock tonight, Councillor Dunn and myself were invited to the ribbon cutting at the high school. And then we had a brief little tour. He and I, of course, wanted to see the kitchens. It was great. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility. It's a jewel, another jewel in our community, you know. And I said in a little speech there that, you know, for council, it's of utmost importance for us to create a great place to live and work and play, as they say, and that just adds to it. So it definitely was a thrill to be invited, a thrill to see it, and it's the place for the kids. And a few of the kids said how excited they are to go to school each day, and actually the teachers said the same thing. It's just a shot in the arm to go to a new state-of-the-art facility. They were saying, the one teacher said the sun shines in on those high east windows and just shines down the hall, and he said he's just invigorated to go into work every day. So it was really nice. So anyway, that's it. Statement of members, non-debatable. Nothing. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Dunn, Councillor Hammond, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.